Now I think we're ready to begin.
Thank you, Jeannie. Dan, we'll have to follow your agenda. I don't have it with me.
Oh, okay, thanks, sure. Um,
Do we want to do
the
this?
note that I have here is open the presentation with our stories and those
Okay.
initial experiences that awakened us to the Indigenous memory.
That's good. Okay. Do you want to start one, Dan, or shall I just start it?
Why don't you go ahead, Regina?
Okay. Well, this week I'd been really thinking a lot about how far back, when did I first hear from the Indigenous? When did I really have my true experience without even recognizing it? And I realized I had so many, which I did not know that they were already communicating. And it wasn't until I started looking back this week as to how far back it went. And I think I was probably 11, 12, 13. And my father was presenting at a very big Western art show. And all of these top Western artists were gathered in Arizona. And I was overwhelmed by the beautiful paintings. Most of them were cowboys and things like that, Western landscapes. And there were a few that were venturing into doing the Native American art as well, Native American portraiture, along with. It was it was kind of a fine line at that point, being able to actually paint them for real, by getting into the tribes and stuff like that and honoring them to their truest. So it was more rare to see a really beautiful, true portrait or pictures of the Native Americans in their life. And I remember being overwhelmed by one particularly very large mural, almost. It was maybe 4 feet by 3 feet. So not mural, but 4 feet by 3 feet. That's a very large painting. And the depth of the sorrow that I could feel, I just wanted to stand there and cry, but I didn't. I just was overwhelmed. And this artist came up to me and he goes, "Do you like this painting?" And I said, "Well, I like the painting, but I'm overwhelmed by the emotion." And he says, "Do you know what this is?" And no, not at that age. And I, of course, didn't have any history. And he said, "Well, that's represents the Trail of Tears." And so this was over 60,000 Native Americans from different tribes on the East were all had to walk miles and miles and miles, Trail of Tears, to go to their to their assigned reservation. And thousands died along the way. And it was over a 3 or 4 year period. And it was basically the way the Americas were dealing with the Native Americans. And I was so overwhelmed and so taken by it. And I realized that was the first time I think Spirit was talking to me. The Native American Spirit was talking to me. And I realized that I wasn't getting any of this education at school. Anything I wanted to know, I had to read up about it because it's one-sided what you get taught. And later on, it became other Indigenous. As I went to Mexico, I was very much aware of my Indigenous background, my own personal Indigenous history. And I'm drawn continually into different lives that are of the Indigenous. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. I just feel like it's part of me so strongly, deeply. I'm as white as can be, guys, but it's there. And it's a blessing. So that was probably the earliest. And then it just continued where I began to hear them talk, and they guided me through lots of things. So I just wanted to share that things happen and we look at it thinking, well, is that a spiritual meaning or not? It doesn't really matter. It's what awakened my, it awakened me to the awareness of the individuals And I think that was really important for the direction of my life and how important it's been for me to be out here in Nebraska on the land.
You know, Regina, you have also mentioned that from time to time, especially when you're driving across the land, that certain companions show up for you.
Yes, I
Can you
have
just say a few words about that?
I have several very, very fun companions, and the one, her name is Nada Agnes, and she is maybe 5 feet tall. She smokes a cigar, and she's short and round, and smokes a car, and she's constantly ticking her tongue at me when I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm not listening to her correctly. And the one thing she hates is too many people. Jeanne knows this. She'll pop in the car and she goes, we got to get out of here. Too many people, she'll say to me. Anyway, I can smell her cigar when she's near me. And she has taught me so much about how to forage on the land and tells me when to pick the herbs and things. Without a book, I'm amazed. And I've no poisoned yet. I haven't been poisoned yet. But I've discovered some amazing things off the ground and in the trees. And she's taught me a lot. And then I'll go home and do some research on it and go, oh, she's right. Yes, of course I am. But anyway, that's just one of many. So I'll stop with that and let Jeannie share her story.
Well, I want to say the reason why we even chose to speak to this today is because, there's just such a need to understand how we get through this cycle that's happening on the planet right now. And how do we go about being who we want to be in a politically intense environment, whether you're living in the United States like we are, Regina and myself and Dan and others of you, or living, in Australia or the UK or other places. And how do you assist, and how do you what's the role, what's our job, aside from what we already know we can do? And of course, the Native American, the Indigenous, not just limited to Native Americans, but other Indigenous communities globally have had to endure terrible hardships and ignorant policies and, horrible transitions and living spaces. And they've endured, and they have a lot to say about it. And one of the things that was always so interesting to me as I first got into spiritualism was, everybody had a Native American guide. And people would ask me, well, why is that? And it's like, well, the Indigenous communities were everywhere. They were a huge population, and they're still here as guardians of the earth. And that's the reason we still have them, is because their role, one of their many roles here in their culture and their creations here, is to be guardians of the earth. And so for those of us who are here to help and to grow ourselves, and also bring forth things to the planet, we will want to have that energy of guardianship with us. Plus the fact that we've all been Indigenous and we have that inner core memory. And it's one of the things I think that kind of brings us into triumph. So that is why we felt particularly pulled to coming in with this part of the creation story, and to help us be able to field the energies that are in the cycle right now, astrologically as well as culturally, etc. For me, like Regina, she and I have great Native American Indigenous stories that we can't take all of the time for today. We're going to do this in another session, our experiences around Bear's Teepee, which is the Devil's Tower in Wyoming that was made famous with their close encounters with their kind, and how we walked it to do ceremony. But the first time I didn't even recognize anything about Native American culture until I was a little kindergartner. And I might have shared the story with everyone before, but in those days, mother stayed home and it was a neighborhood school, and we were like 2.5 blocks away. And one of the things that went on in kindergarten, besides graham crackers and milk and nap time, was we did music. And those days, Indian music was dun 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 dun. That old stereotype, which of course isn't what they like to be known for, but that music was playing, and my teacher had a whole lesson on, the Indians. And she put music on, and apparently I took to it so profoundly that she called my mother and said, "You have to come down and see your daughter," because I would not stop dancing to this, even though it wasn't really the best Native American music. Indigenous music is what we had. And my mother to walk down and saw her daughter just going at it with this memory coming out of me. And my genetics in this lifetime is Scots-Irish. So I have more Celtic than I have the genetics of the Indigenous, but I do certainly have spiritual Indigenous energy, as we all do. So that was my first time, but I really wasn't conscious of it. I don't remember that, except that my mom told me. But the first time that I really became profoundly aware was when we took a trip up to the second mesa in Arizona, which is where the Hope Tewa live. And my partner and I at the time were working with a Lutheran group of students, and we had collected a lot of things through our Bible study program, and we're going to take them up to the second mesa. And the assistant pastor for the Lutheran church was so connected to these people, and this was like 1974. And he said to me, "Oh, I think I've been an Indian before. I know I've lived amongst these people before." And that was the first time I really was brought into the world of the thought of reincarnation or incarnating over and over. And he would go up there and he said, "You don't just give people things up there, you trade for them." And so we took 2 of the middle school kids with us, and the 5 of us took a trip up there from Southern California over there Easter break. And it changed my life because they've never been on, first of all, desert land like this. Second of all, there's nobody there on the mesa, but everybody's staring at you. I don't know if you've had experiences like that, but we got up there and we could feel the eyes of everybody in these very old dwellings. Some of them were built in 800 or almost, I can't remember now, but it was very old, 1,000 years at least, and just recently had some kind of electricity. And it was such a different energetic for this city girl. We stepped foot on the land, and there was a pack of dogs. There must have been 8 or 10 of them, and they were wild, and they were daring us to come on to their property. Which kind of scared me, but we just kind of had those thoughts, "No, you're going to calm down, it's okay," but and one little dog was the alpha and kind of sensed us and sniffed us and smelled us out and said, "You're okay." So these animals let us by, and then Pastor Rosen had contact there. But at the whole time, the feeling of being watched was really, really eerie. And from there, we met some people and we traded things, and he collected Kachina dolls, and we were able to distribute. But I was touched by their simplicity and the seeming innocence. And yet I never met in this lifetime someone that was so different than me. We stayed with an Indigenous woman who opened her government housing to us and spent what little she had with, at that time, food stamps to feed us breakfast, which was milk and donuts. And she was absolutely generous, but like everything with certain government policies, nothing in the house worked. The plumbing didn't work, the water really didn't work, but there was that plumbing. And I was just absolutely devastated by the indifference that was placed on these people. And I got such an education from Lee Rosen, who was the pastor, and his explanation to how the people were treated and the things that went on. And I would sleep so deeply. We spent, I think, 2 nights in her home, if not 3, and I couldn't get up. And I realized later on afterwards how everything was shifting for me, coming back on the land and experiencing parts of myself. And so that would be my first adult experience, actually. And there's more to the story, but that's plenty for right now. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Jeannie. Just thought I would just briefly run down some of my connections with the Native culture. I think probably the first thing that inspired me was I had, back in the 1970s, I had a chiropractor who was a descendant of Edward Curtis. Edward Curtis was a photographer in the early part of the 20th century based in Seattle, whose life purpose, and thanks to a huge grant from a benefactor, was to produce ultimately several dozen books of photographs of Native Americans. And he and his assistants went out and befriended the tribes, starting with the tribes of the Pacific Northwest. And they would bring out their, I mean, these were, even at that time, already westernized folks, but they would bring their ceremonial garb out of storage, and they would set up these wonderful, noble poses for Curtis's photographs. And if you can Google him up, Edward Curtis, and see some of the amazing photos that he produced at that time. Anyway, my chiropractor, whose middle name was Curtis, had these books in his waiting room, and I was fascinated by them. Some years later, in the mid-1980s, I had a girlfriend who had studied with a native shaman here in Northern California. His name was Grandpa Roberts. And his power animal was the raven. I mention this because Alpha and I then embarked on about a 3-week trip through the American Southwest. And during these weeks, we had so many encounters with ravens, it was totally uncanny. Also on this trip, which was a revelation for me, it was just a wonderful experience visiting, say, the Four Corners area, the native habitations, and just being there on the land. But I also had a very interesting and disturbing experience at a location called Montezuma's Well, which is about 100 or some foot diameter sinkhole in the desert. And there's a spring at the bottom, which sometimes floods and sometimes recedes. But you can walk down into this sinkhole. There's stairs carved into the walls, as well as cliff dwellings in the walls of this huge sinkhole. Anyway, as we went down into this place in the earth, I started having the strangest, most uncomfortable feeling that I've ever had in my life. And I said to my friend, I said, "We've got to get out of here." And she felt it too. And as soon as we went up the steps and back up to the surface, everything was fine. So while I don't have a clear picture of what that was about for me, I was definitely picking up something that had either happened in that location, either personally to me as a previous life, perhaps, or just an energy that was still residual in that area. Several years later, I was at a location maybe 30 miles from there. This is a completely different trip to Arizona. And in visiting a friend who lived sort of in a canyon area, not far from there. And I had the same experience of I can't be here. I have to leave. And I later learned that there was a disturbed Indian grave in that location and other things, but that was, I think, the main thing. Anyway, I drove out of there very quickly, and as soon as I got back to the surface, my pager went off. It's a psychic friend back in the Bay Area saying, "Dan, are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, why do you ask?" And she says, "Well, I just had the feeling you were in terrible danger." So that was, another very visceral experience for me in this sphere. But back to the power animal for a moment, the ravens. We had so many ravens around us on that Arizona trip that it was just incredible. And I'm sorry wasn't able to photograph them all. Not long after that, I was driving from the San Francisco area to Los Angeles one day, and there was an area where you go over Tehachapi Mountains. It's called the Grapevine, and it was snowing and sleeting at the time. But I was just barreling up the hill in my van then, and all of a sudden, and this is in the middle of snow, this huge raven comes directly at my windshield and just peels off just at the very last moment. It was just, I've never seen anything like this before. And so I thought, this has got to be a warning. I'm going to slow down. And as I slowed down, I went around a curve, and a truck had jackknifed across the whole highway.
Wow.
And if I hadn't gotten that warning, I would have been right in the middle of that. So just a few anecdotes from my own experience. But I don't claim to have the kind of of psychic sensitivity that you guys have, but these experiences have been more than enough for me to really feel and to acknowledge the presence that we're in the presence of today.
And we're in the presence of quite a few of them too today. They're here. They've been with Jeanne and I this week. Me a lot today, kind of vying to see. We basically said everybody has to stay back so that we can just present this, and then in doing so, this we wanted to present. How do we deal with today's angst? I'm going to use that angst. Because I don't want to put too much energy into the depth of the darkness of what's going on politically or globally, economically, all of those things. Because one of the things, the biggest messages I have been hearing all week is, this is your first time, but we've done this many times before. And we've been oppressed all our existence. We've oppressed each other, the Native Americans or Indigenous, as they've moved across the countries. Whether I don't know what the history is in Australia, but around the world, all tribes war back and forth. But learning not to war was a whole nother lesson in and itself. And it was upon the destruction of the bison and everything else that they realized here in the Americas that they may not survive this. They may not survive the oppression this time around. So they actually acquiesced to a lot of the different reservations and things like that, even though it meant going onto land that was not suitable for growing anything or raising anything or feeding. They had to give up the nomadic life and all of that. but their story, the things they have to resonate, still continues today. That information still continues. The care and the nurturing of the heart, the mother heart, which is Mother Earth. And so, with that, I'll have Dan do some of the videos. Jeanne and I, the first time we met Dan was doing this Native American presentation. Jeanne and I were expecting to do a couple of females to come through in this presentation. And instead, I don't know how many we had come through in a full day, and males included, channeled through. So it was my first experience of this multiple channeling like this. And it had definitely my first experience of holding this kind of energy like this. So I look a little odd, just so you know. But I'm stronger as a channeler as far as carrying this. This was done in 2018, in June of 2018, for a group of individuals in the Palo Alto, California, Northern California region. And so when you're ready, Dan, are you guys, everybody willing to watch some videos here? Everybody okay with that? Okay, we're going to do two. Mine's about 7 minutes. I think Jean's is 10. So we'll do the first one, and they can pause and we can visit about it, ask questions, and then we'll go to the next one. Okay? So you're not just inundated fully.
Okay,
right.
We're going to start with channeling of Black Elk.
I am Black Elk. I haven't been through in a long time. Not in this one ever. So she's not sure what to do with me. This was supposed to be the mother energy. I am a protector of our Mother Earth. I had said one time, a long time ago, that the sacred hoop was broken. I was wrong. It was frail, it was fragile, nearly torn apart. But my ancestors taught me, after I died, that it's our responsibility to continue to hold the sacred hoop, to continue to breathe the sacred hoop, to continue to foster it, nourish it, give it life. And the only way we can do that is through our people. But our people that are existing on the earth right now, in all of the reservations, you'll have a good laugh about that when I tell you about them. They're all you white people. They're living out their karma. Poor Custer. He's back and forth, along with many of the others who led the rebellions against us, who led the slaughters, the massacres, the destruction of our children, who cut our hair, who tried to do everything they could to destroy us. And they almost succeeded. Almost, I say, because there were a few that remained. A few elders that lasted into their 90s and near 100. And those elders continued to talk. They continued to pass through and teach the youth. And even if there was only one youth in one tribe who could hear the message, the hoop was not broken. Oh, I was wrong. I was so very wrong. The sacred hoop is sacred and cannot be broken, and I understand that now. Because it's up to me, It's up to Wilma. It's up to Agnes. And it's up to all the rest of us on the other side. We stand guard, but we laugh sometimes at the foolishness of the people on the reservation. Agnes is still mad. How could we leave her behind, she says. But she too had to learn, but she was the elder. She was the elder to teach. She was the last one with the name White Buffalo Chief. Her line is destroyed. She knows it. But she still taught the language. And in the language is the energy of our people. And it's not just ours, it's yours as well. It's Mother Earth. It's the language of the vibration of the earth. Each word, each sound. Hey, 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 hey. You feel that? Hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah, 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 hey. It's a language. Just two vowels. H-E-Y-A. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey. And the louder you feel it, the louder you sound, and the louder it pounds inside you. And it clears you. And it brings you back to the vibration of who we are. I bring you that sound, I bring you that vibration, and I thank you for coming because all of you had lived among my people. All of you. As Wilma has said, you have not left the tribe. And the sacred hoop is not broken. This was supposed to be the Mother Earth energy, but I tell you, I hold the Mother Earth energy too. It does not just belong to women, it belongs to us men. For we are guardians as well as the nurturers. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. Remember that. Remember that. Hear those. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. You can say it quietly in the car. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. When you do that, you'll feel it. And you'll feel me. Because I can live with all of you. That's the best part of being on this side. The best part. I can be anywhere, anytime you call. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Do that with me. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. A little louder. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. With a drum. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. A drum. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Louder. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Feel it. Hey, yeah, 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 hey. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Awaken the memory. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah, hey. One more. Hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey. Thank you.
Well, I hadn't watched that in a long time. I'm just,
I know, I started feeling it again. I thought, whoa. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for watching that, everybody. So that was a first time for me, and it was very different, of course, very masculine for me. And if there's any questions, we can take some, or comments, or saying, no, that's garbage, that's fine too. But I know you won't.
Jeanne?
I want to add to the experience with Black Elk that the first time I experienced him with Regina was prior to that, when we were given permission to go to the Sundance in South Dakota, which was very unusual because unless you had some indigenous, percentage, you didn't usually go. It was a very private thing. And I think we've talked about it briefly before, but the reason why I think it's important is because we talk about Black Elks, talking about the sacred hoop and it not being broken. We were up at the Sundance, and prior to them starting, it was the 9 o'clock in the morning dance, and they were dancing for the Vietnam veterans. And of course, the Sundance, they have this big tree or a big pole, and they have like ribbons coming out, and the different dancers take the fatty part of their chest and put a little hook through it and are hooked to those ribbons or cords. And of course, the government had told them years ago they couldn't do it because it was, brutal behavior. But we crucify Christ all the time. So anyway, we were standing there as they were getting us ready for this dancing, and everybody's very quiet. It was a very big protocol. And all of a sudden I heard, "I'm so sorry." And I had this overwhelming sadness, and I couldn't, what? "I'm so sorry. We failed." And it was Black Elk saying to me that they had promised the Star people, those of us who were bringing ourselves from other places to here, they had promised a better containment and a preparation of the planet to keep it available to us to be able to come in and out and to do our work. And I was so profoundly struck by his sadness that he felt that they had failed because of everything that had happened. And I said, "Oh, I think, sir, that we should be apologizing to you for what we did to you." And then later on, we came into having more experiences like that. So it's an incredible preface to this sacredness and the sanctity of being so connected to the earth and her beauty. I just wanted to share that because of that.
Thank you, Jean.
Regina and Jeanne, shall we run the video of Beatrice?
Yes, and then Beatrice, the reason we got to the Sundance is because Beatrice was one of the 13 grandmothers who counsel the world. That book was put in my hand in 2010 purely by accident. And she and her sister Rita, who I believe is still alive, just barely, she's almost 100, live up in the Chadron area. And Rita's daughter, Loretta, was a friend of 3 sisters who were Reiki sisters that Regina's very close to, and I know them as well. And Loretta was given permission by her mother Rita, the grandmother Rita, to let us come to the Sundance. It was a very, very special occasion. So there were Regina and myself and our friend Nancy and Susan was there as well. So there were 4 white ladies, although Regina does have Indigenous in her, but that's how that all came about, that we were given permission by Beatrice, and that's how we got connected to the channeling and her relationship with us.
Here we go.
I am Beatrice, long visitor, holy dancer. And Black Elk was always a big show-off.
That was fun. I do have some notoriety. My sister, Rita, still lives in Chadron, Nebraska. And I recently passed from my human body into that of the divine energy of the continual creator and its creation. I do have my name written about in the book about the grandmothers who counsel the world. It was a very interesting experience to become a part of that council, to travel to many places as a unit of 13 women, to promote healing, to promote self-awakening, and to embrace our mother. I tried to stay in body as long as I could, but I was assured by my elders that my work would continue and that there would be some still in body who would help me to continue with my life's work. Please understand, I do not take someone else's life from them, nor do I ask them to do my work. But there is an agreement of purpose and a commonality of the spirit, which grows inside both Jeanne and myself. It grows also in with Regina. At times these two clowns are one and the same, as Mr. Dan experienced last night. I come in only with a message of peace. I come in to touch your spirits and reassure you that whatever is traveling with you, whatever is troubling you, whatever worries or concerns you have, that all you need to do is connect to our mother, to feel her presence, whether in the physical or in the star world, and know that there is a higher world power, a higher galactic star world energy, which is moving the planets in and through the universe, through all systems and realms of probabilities and possibilities. My message today is for you to reach for the stars, but not to live there, but bring that stardust back into your heart, to touch the magic and the mysticism of the creation of all that is beyond anything we can possibly imagine, and to bring it back here and hold it sacred and divine. It will walk with you. It will not leave you. It will remind you moment by moment. Remember the earth beat of our mother. The ancient ones are here, we have called them, and they walk with us step by step, door by door. When they can, they'll sit in the car, unless the music is a little unlike their desired music. Other than that, they walk with you. You invited them. If you cannot hear or feel them, no worries about it, but understand there is so much, as Nada Agnes says, noise. There is so much noise. It is hard to hear the Creator. It is hard to know the world. And that is what my mission is, to help pronounce the sound of the Mother, to help speak the sound of our Mother, and therefore speak part of creation. And then the Father can be spoken, and His words can be carried. And you have a unification. You have a melding between the Mother and Father, the Divine Mother, the Divine Father. And then you have your wholeness in your spirit. I reach out as I sit in this chair, sending the love I feel when I am so connected to her heartbeat. And when I am so anticipating that message of continuity and reflection to overcome whatever other nations decide needs to be our truth. They are false memories. They are illusions. They do not walk with us in a way that our heart can beat and our songs can sing. I feel you. I know you. And it is a wonderful and pleasant experience to be connected to all of you in this room as we stand here remembering and singing and pronouncing and calling and creating. From the drumbeat that was shared by Black Elk comes the caution of divine love as it speaks to us gently as an energy flowing between the rows of your chairs, moving in and through you, touching you, embracing you, reassuring you, encouraging you to continue on your journey, to do whatever it is you were afraid to do, to not be afraid of the consequences, but to go with what your inner soul heart tells you to do. You are never forgotten, and you are not alone. The clan walks with each and every one of you, as do I. I miss my world family, but I walk with my spirit family. And many times I'm privileged in those dreams that I share with my earth family, the times of memory, which help me to still stay connected to my earth clan. But I bring to you a far larger range of family on the other side who've joined us today and fill this auditorium, who stand behind all of us, who touch us on our shoulders and present that wonderful experience of being everything you need to be and knowing everything you need to know. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We are taking care of her. We call forth the mother in all we meet, regardless of their presentation, regardless of where they are on their journey, as we greet them, whether handshake or hug or words, and we know that they are awakening because we see it to be so. We see them awakening, even when the visual might tell you otherwise. We know that they can drop the fear and the concern and the pollution and the contamination. We call forth the heart of the mother in them as she beats. I know you feel it. I know it has no words. And sometimes words are our worst enemy. I will sing a gentle song for you now of the mother as she is singing and cradling her children. Hey, Yahweh, wa lo ya, oh wa ya, lo ya, wa ya, ha ya, wa ya, lo wa, ha ya, la wa yo wa, ha ya, lo ya, wa ye lo wa. Hey, hello, wa la wa ya. Hey la wa ya lo wa ya. Hi wa ya lo wa ya wa. Hi la wa ya la wa ya. Hi lo wa ya la wa ya. Hi wo. Hi wo ya lo ya. Hi wa lo. Hi wa lo ya. Hi wo. Hi wo la wo ya. Hi lo ya lo. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Wow, that certainly brings back for me incredible memory of that experience. I mean, these two videos are just fragments of a very long day of channeling, and once again, this is my first exposure to Jeanne and Regina, and I didn't know what to expect.
Neither did we.
It turned out to be the beginning of a very long and wonderful relationship with these two wonderful beings.
Thank you, Dan.
I think that it's hard sometimes for Regina and I to watch ourselves, and I found that if I closed my eyes and just listened to the message without the physical, I found I could go even more deeply into the energy. One of the reasons I feel I can do this is because I've come to several. So Regina and I both have been had the fortune of meeting several Indigenous, lovely healing beings who live in the area, and very much had given us permission to carry this, because there's a lot of, oh, is this politically correct? Are you trying to, do this or that with it? And I kind of shudder a little bit, because we all have been everything. It's like, people saying you can't channel Seth because Jane Roberts was the only one. We need to go beyond the limits of thinking that we haven't been in different cultures in other lifetimes. That's why we feel so called to it all, and to be able to stir those memories, as Black Elk had said. And the whole point of this is to call us to the fact that these Indigenous communities have endured. And I think of Wilma very strongly. I didn't put her message out. Wilma Mankiller, such a brilliant woman, first female chief of her Cherokee Nation. And why is it important for us to touch base today? Because it is our original source. It's our human original source and connectedness to creation. And so often when we are in these expanded spaces and we go out into the atmosphere and we expand, and we go to planet Zircon and we see all the angels and all the other beings of light, and we want to go back and live there because it's so much more beautiful in some ways than here because of what we're walking through. But we need to remember, this is a planet that offers the opportunity to go through all these different forms of creation, the dark, the light, the in-between. And how do we do that? How do we walk through that? And we try to walk with it with as much grace as possible, but we also feel the need to center and to be connected and to listen, and then to act accordingly to that leading, to that spirit-directed movement, and to know that we always endure, because the physical body may pass, of course, but the spirit continues to grow and to learn and to move forward. And if anything, we learn the integrity of being who we are, in the midst of other situations and conditions that's trying to tell us we're not. No, you can't be this way. You can't be that way. You've got to be mad. You've got to be angry. You got to be disgusted. You got to do something. You got to do this. We need to get out of the rambling noise and into that central zone of the essence of our love, and to that heart space of the Divine Mother, the Cosmic Mother, the Earth Mother, because the mother is the nurturing soul. And of course it can go be male or female, it doesn't matter, but it's the nurturing soul of creation for us here. And so that is our leading force, if you will, towards navigating these times and who we are, and to connect into that wider, deeper, bigger understanding, and have a distance of a perspective to go, okay, we're going through a cycle. How many cycles have been here before? And rather than being discouraged by it, understanding it's the wisdom of the mother as she teaches her creation how to be here. Because we've chosen to be here. And the cosmic oversoul, if you will, Divine Mother, is teaching us, is affording us the ability to learn all those things we want to learn about human nature, our makeup as a being in a human form, our emotional energy, our mental and spiritual, psychological energy. And she's affording this opportunity here. It's a presence here. It's a gift. It's a gift. And the Divine Mother energy is here to guide her creation, to guide her children, all of us, through this experience of light and dark. And to come out with the understanding of the unity of consciousness, and embracing all of our parts, and embracing the diversity, embracing the dissension, and being able to love it so much that it disappears. Because we love it so much in ourselves, and honor ourselves and respect ourselves, which was the very beginning of the opening, that it disappears. That we are so strong and so centered and so aware of ourselves here and beyond, that we put our loving arms around the difficulties and smile and embrace and transform. And that is our gift to ourselves. And as we do that for ourselves, then we do it for the world community. And that is how we survive and become more and evolve.